But this herd immunity is just crazy making, because they say in elementary schools they want 99 or 100% vaccination because of herd immunity. But none of the teachers are required to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
The grocery store people, when you go to the movies, is everybody vaccinated?
The bus driver probably is not vaccinated.
The church, everywhere you go. So how could this herd immunity ever work with vaccinations?
It's just a mythological concept.
Unless they completely force everybody to do it.
Hey everybody, it's Dr. Jack.
And Mary.
And welcome back to the Forbidden Doctor podcast. This is podcast episode 166.
Woohoo!
They would have told us, right?
Right?
That's the title of it.
There's a popular meme out there that we wanted to share. I wish we had our pictures, but you're just going to have to visualize this. It's a meme that has a picture of a sheep's face, a sheep, okay? The caption reads, "If vaccines caused autism, they would have told us, right?"
Yeah, tell that to the sheep.
Yeah. So in the water in Flint, Michigan, if it had been full of lead, they would have told us, right?
Oh, yes. If asbestos caused mesothelioma, they would have told us.
Oh, for sure. And if lead paint caused brain damage, especially when the little babies chew on their crib, they would have told us, right? Yeah. If Vioxx caused heart attacks, they would have told us.
Sure. If thalidomide caused birth defects, they would have told those mothers.
Yes.
If silicone breast implants leaked, they would have told us.
If DDT destroyed ecosystems, they would have told us.
Yes, if cigarettes caused cancer, they would have told us.
Yeah. Well, a concealed truth, that is all a lie is.
Yes.
Is just a concealed truth.
Yes.
So we have to take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim.
That's right. Sitting back and doing nothing always will help the oppressor.
Yes, silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. And that was by Elie Wiesel.
Elie Wiesel, yes.
Wiesel, yes, from the concentration camp.
Yes. Now, there is a quote here I want to get to you.
So we're taking sides here.
Yeah, we are taking sides.
We're stepping out here as
forbidden
people.
This is the latest on vaccinations. And there are some profound statements like the one I'm about to give you right now from J.B. Handley. There is a tremendous disconnect between knowledge and implemented treatment for autism. There is an ever-widening gap between what parents know and what physicians know. The parents have made themselves experts in complex biochemistry, immunology, and gastroenterology. They know what's happening on the cutting edge of autism treatment because their kids need them to know. This kind of a parent overtakes their pediatrician's expertise very quickly.
Yeah, so what we're going to talk about... Okay, what we're going to talk about is the idea of herd immunity.
Yes.
Because that's the big one. That's the one they're always throwing out at us. And some current topics relating to the latest vaccine controversy and everything that's going on, and why Jack and I are pro-informed consent. You thought I was going to say pro-vaccine. No, we are pro-informed consent. So if you want to vaccinate your children, that's your business, as much as it is the business of the parents who choose not to vaccinate. Yeah,
all we're saying is that parents should be informed of the risks instead of the current palliative, vaccines are safe and effective.
Yep.
This is called informed consent, and parents need to be told the risks and dangers of vaccines. If they choose to go ahead and proceed with the inoculations, fine. That's all we're saying. But interestingly enough, the little forms that you sign when you go into the emergency room, there's informed consent. I don't care if they're just taking out a splitter or if they're trying to revive somebody in a coma from a heart attack. I recently had some oral surgery here just a couple of weeks ago. And all they were doing was removing a tooth that had broken. Just removing a tooth that had broken.
And you were a little sedated.
Well, that was another one. This one I signed was 2 pages long of what could happen to me if they took a tooth out of my mouth.
You could die.
Then there was another one I had to sign for the sedation. And I didn't get anesthesia. I was just sedated. I was just put to sleep, just under consciousness. And there were 3 pages that I had to sign.
That you could die.
Right.
That could be a side effect of the sedation.
Right. Now, you could walk into a pediatrician's office and get a hexavalent shot. That's 6 shots wrapped into one.
6 vaccines.
Loaded with all kinds of chemicals. And that's the only thing in medicine that I'm aware of where they do not have to tell you up front the
You could
risks
die.
and the dangers.
Yes.
So
Crazy.
So when Mary said there a moment ago, we're not saying we're pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine. We are pro-informed consent. You make up your own mind. You do what you want to do. And as you're always saying, you know, if you're worried about a chicken pox or mumps or something like this, and you just got to have your child have a vaccine for chicken pox
Yeah,
and
you
mumps.
think they're going to die from chicken pox.
If you're willing to trade an infectious disease for a lifetime of chronic dysfunction, nerve dysfunction,
You should know
immune
that.
dysfunction, you should be told this up front.
You should know that you're going to create some form of immune dysregulation.
Absolutely.
You should be told that. Always. It always will create. It may not rise to the level of a disease, but many times it does now.
And it may take a decade or two,
It may.
or 3, or
Yes,
4.
but you will always have some autoimmune dysregulation
Yes.
with vaccinations because they do it backwards. But you're not told that. You don't know that. And it's just shocking to me to get your appendix taken out. You have to be told you could die from this operation, but not for vaccinations.
All right. So before we get to that for our regular listeners, the next 4 minutes is our financial stuff. You can fast forward through it if you choose. But for our new listeners, please listen at least one time so you understand how we do things around here.
Yeah.
So before we begin this informative and forbidden podcast, we want to take a few minutes to talk about why we do not have sponsors.
Yeah, we've been approached many times to sell different products on our show.
But we've always been compelled to resist these financially tempting offers because many times they lead to an attempt for editorial control over what we say.
Yeah, and what we're doing here is too important to be controlled by corporate interests. So we never allow this kind of advertising on our show.
And so that said, we don't make money from these podcasts. All of our income comes from your interaction with us and what we have to offer, and from the sale of our Forbidden Doctor products and supplements from the oldest and original whole food supplement manufacturer in the United States, Standard Process.
Yeah.
But we're not paid by Standard Process. Indeed, they distance themselves from open internet promotion because of constant scrutiny from the FDA.
Yeah, and as a result, they do not advertise or pay for advertising outside of a licensed healthcare professional's office.
And the reason for this is really simple, because their products are very powerful and they actually work.
Yeah.
So they need to be careful about people making claims. Others have mentioned that while the knowledge we share can't be found anywhere else, it is often tied to Standard Process.
Yeah, and that also includes our own ageless thyroid and long life energy enzymes products.
Yes, and so you might ask, could not our own products be creating a conflict of interest? Mm-hmm. I mean, have we mistakenly created infomercials instead of free knowledge podcasts?
No, we do this on purpose.
Yes, because years of experience on the radio and in our clinics and almost 500,000 downloads of our podcasts have taught us a few things. And the most important is that the type of nutrient-dense foods that most of us need to get our bodies actually healing from years of malnutrition are not easily integrated into most of our lives.
Yeah, the quest for excellence in nutrition has never been an easy task. Just face it, nobody wants to eat raw liver. But absolutely no one will sign up to eat raw liver daily for 6 months. So we feel therapeutic supplementation is sometimes very critical in the healing process.
Yes, it is. So let us be clear. We talk about Standard Process because this is how you can get whole foods in a concentrated form that you would never, ever eat on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. And the reason we do our podcast this way is because it has saved our lives and countless others that we've worked with over the years.
Yeah, so we sell supplements.
Yeah.
And so we try to give free knowledge away about how nutrition touches every aspect of our lives. And so necessarily these two are going to overlap. But the bottom line is, we may mention supplements that you can get from our website, but the knowledge we share is real. And you can take that with you forever, whether or not you ever buy anything from us.
But you can support us in keeping this podcast on the air with a donation at forbiddendoctor.com/donate.
Yes.
Or if you're ready to take your first steps for your own health, you can join our family by going to our website and taking our free symptom survey.
Now, we understand, we really do, that some of you may feel real hardship with even a modest purchase and cannot afford even a single month's supply of supplements. So please know then, it is completely okay if you do not buy our supplements or financially support our show in any way if you cannot afford to.
Yes. However, there are many ways to support us for free. You can give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. That's easy. Or a thumbs up on YouTube. Wherever you listen to our podcast, just give us a good rating.
Yeah, and if you already support the show, thank you. Truly, thank you. And please know that you are the very reason we fight this good fight. I mean, your support makes this all possible.
So now let's get back to the forbidden information they don't want you to know.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and before we jump into our podcast, we also want to remind you about our free symptom survey, which we offer on our homepage of our website, forbiddendoctor.com. It is the most comprehensive survey you'll ever take. It has tons of questions, and after you're done, you have the opportunity to have a free 30-minute phone consultation, and you'll be given a personalized supplement protocol. So you have to understand, this saves you money in the long run because you're not taking supplements you don't need.
And all of this is at no charge to you.
Okay, we're going to jump in here with our weekly feature. We've kind of
got away from it.
We haven't really done a weekly. We used to do it more when we had the visual video cast, but I love this feature. It's Forbidden Secrets They Don't Want You to Know. These are the secret things they keep from you, the dumb things they tell you, and the really important things they know nothing about. We found... Oh, this is just kind of funny. I'm trying not to laugh here. We found this article... California scientists are developing a cow-free dairy milk from GMO yeast and 3D printed milk proteins.
I thought, you know what, April 1st is coming right around next week, and I thought this was an April Fool's joke.
No, this is a guy that used to work for Bill Gates.
Yeah.
These are actually, there's two guys, but the one guy used to work for Bill Gates because I read the article, which I'm not going to read to you, but I'm going to read you a little bit.
Total artificial food here.
Unbelievable. Well, most countries across the world continue to eschew the virtually all food creations originating from the lab rather than the farmstead, especially in Europe, where nearly 20 countries have already banned GMOs.
Right.
Okay, since
not our country.
Oh, no, not ours. The United States is charging full steam ahead towards a completely new type of food system. This emerging...
Mother Nature, bye-bye. We don't need you anymore, darling. We have the laboratory.
This emerging system places scientists at the forefront of food production, not farmers. Remember that story where the lady came into our office and she was trying to sell me this face cream and she was saying, "It's we have 5 scientists on our board."
Oh, I know it. I know where this is going.
Yeah, and I was like, and she was saying, "Oh, it's just all natural. Yes. It's just all perfect." And I said, "Well, how many farmers do you have on your board?" Actually, it wasn't a face cream. She was trying to just sell me supplements. She wanted us to bring supplements into the company. Yes, I get so much of this. But I said, how many farmers are on your board of directors? Because she was just touting these scientists. Yeah, she didn't.
Yeah, what do scientists know about growing food?
No, she couldn't.
Unless they're agriculturalists.
So, in many cases, I'm continuing on with this wonderful article. In many cases, lab-made food companies start with admirable goals of ending or minimizing animal suffering. Okay, because, milking cows is so bad on them. And reducing greenhouse gas emissions and other similar emissions, because all those cows are out there farting,
Oh, yes.
And they're just adding to this horrible.
Oh, yes.
But critics wonder why these novel foods are being rushed to the market without long-term safety testing at a time when increasing amounts of synthetic foods are being allowed into the U.S. supply. Mm-hmm. We're dying.
We have no long-term testing of vaccines, too, I might mention that.
And recently, the company just made headlines by announcing its latest creation, lab-grown chicken nuggets made from feathers. Oh, well, made from feathers.
Made from feathers.
I guess plucking feathers doesn't hurt the chicken. I don't know.
Well, they're dead by the time the feathers are plucked. They throw them in boiling water.
Now, get this. Along the same vein, lab-created gene-silenced, that's what it says, gene-silenced GMO foods like strawberries and wheat are also in the pipeline after a recent $125 million deal with Monsanto. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I need to read anymore.
No, that's as insane as it could get.
Yeah, so that's our weekly feature. Let's get back to our wonderful podcast. So where are we?
Well, I think I want to start real quick here with the story of Erin Brockovich.
Oh, okay.
You've all seen the movie with Julia Roberts.
Yeah, I just remember she had really nice cleavage.
Yeah. I don't recall that part. I just recall the part that she was doing some real estate work for this fellow in the office, and somehow she stumbled across a series of people who were having serious
Health problems,
poisoning of their children, and some adults, and they couldn't find out why. They began to suspect it was the water, and then the movie's 2 hours long as to how they find out. In fact, it was the water, because the water was putting metals, byproduct of the processing plant, into
their drinking water.
Into the drinking water, and they were drinking things that were killing them.
Yeah.
Now, why would we fear?
Oh, but they would have told us, right?
Yes. They went around and told everybody in the community. Now, why do we fear having metals in our drinking water? Why would we be afraid of just a little bit of lead,
No.
a little bit of cadmium, the PCVs, the hexachloroethane, and this was what that movie was about.
Well, a community's water is poisoned.
In this movie, that's right.
Yeah, because a local industry had its chemicals leaking.
Yes, and it's based on a true story. Now, why would we be any less concerned about metals being injected into our children's blood supply? I mean, how long did we blame the parents for lead paint poisoning of their kids?
Yeah. Oh, they did. They blamed the parents. They told them, you stop them from putting their fingers in their mouth.
Yeah.
Literally for years.
Yep.
They blamed the parents for this.
Industries threatened businesses everywhere with lawsuits if they said lead paint was poisonous.
Yeah.
Don't you be out there telling people lead paint's poisonous. Or how about the gasoline with lead that was in the formula?
that we were breathing.
When I started driving in the 60s and up into the 70s, we had lead in gasoline because it stopped the knock. And the anti-knock factor was...
But then we knocked off.
Yes, we knocked off. And so we went to unleaded because But why? Surely they would have told us that when you're pumping gas and those fumes are coming up into your nose and you're breathing that salt, that lead salt. Yeah, surely they would have told us.
Do you know, I just found this out today, in fact, that you cannot talk about aluminum in the body in a derogatory or negative way concerning health.
I'd like to look into that more. I'm having a hard time believing it.
I heard it from one of the leaders of Center Process, and he said, you can no longer say aluminum hurts your body. And why? Because aluminum is in vaccinations.
Yeah, they're in the fact they got rid of the mercury and put in aluminum.
Oh, they just upped
which
the
is
aluminum.
Another neurotoxic metal.
Yeah, but you can't say that anymore.
Here you're injecting metal. How long did the media claim cigarettes were good for digestion?
Well, we have the actual advertising
yes, we do.
piece
We
of
have the
paper
reprint.
from, what's that great big Life magazine or something?
Yeah, from Life magazine for Chesterfield cigarettes.
Yep.
And my doctor smokes Chesterfield.
And they said it aids your digestion. Yeah. But at the same time, they wouldn't let Dr. Roy Lee sell Zypan and call it a digestive aid.
Yes.
But the cigarettes, they could. You mean they didn't tell us? I'm shocked.
Well, metals are not harmless any more than cigarette smoke is harmless. And metals do not belong in the human body because metals in the body poison the immune system.
And the nervous system.
Yeah. And with a poisoned immune system, and you're also with that shot that has the metals in it, you get these attenuated viral ingredients. I mean, what is to stop the virus from then getting inside the neurons of the brain if the immune system is AWOL? And if you get those viral agents inside the neurons of the brain in a developing infant, you're going to have some problems. And so why? So let me start this whole thing off here. Well, we're already into it, but why is the epidemic of autism increasing?
Well.
Why?
Well, it could be from that non-milk stuff. And it's our lack of iodine and a whole bunch of things. But
a whole bunch of other things.
A huge thing is the aluminum content of vaccines.
The thimerosal and the aluminum content of vaccines keep changing along with the dosage, along with the frequency of shots. How can we know anything anymore?
Do you know every time they change the formula, they have to do a new study? Because the old study isn't relevant?
Yeah.
And so what do? They just keep changing the shots.
They keep changing.
So
they increase this, they add this, and then you start having problems. This is what happens with the vaccine court in Washington. When people want to get some remuneration for the terrible damage that's been done to their children, the regressive autism from these shots.
And regressive autism means autism that doesn't show up immediately after the shot.
No, it shows up a little bit later, and then they get worse, and then they get worse, and then they get worse, and then they get worse. They're nonverbal, non-communicative, and they're not aware of anything around them. They lose things
they had. They used to speak. They used to be potty trained. They used to be able to
Now, the federal government, since 1986, has poured out $3.8 billion in money to parents of vaccine-damaged children. And yet they continue to say that vaccines cause no damage.
They're safe and effective.
Yeah.
They would tell us.
Well,
right?
They found out that when they combined MMR and chickenpox shots, it increased hospitalizations. Surely they would have told us.
Yeah.
You know, and people are dying all the time with multiple drugs in their systems. We even know, someone who died of an overdose just a couple of years ago, somebody we knew personally. And if you're putting multiple drugs in the systems, how can a multivalent vaccine be any different?
Yeah, and there's so many people.
Yeah, a little bit of history. Measles in the UK back in the 1920s, when they had a huge epidemic, about 1,200 people would die per 1 million during an epidemic. And that's 0.001%.
Out of a million.
That's a tenth of 1%.
You're talking like a measles.
Yeah, of people who died.
Yeah.
I mean, graphs of this are everywhere. I mean, you don't have to take my word for it or Mary's. The CDC has the graphs of these things. But this number plummeted. It's 99.6%, almost 100%, even before the vaccine ever showed up with nothing more than just natural herd immunity.
Ooh, herd immunity. Everybody got it. Everybody got the antibodies. The mothers passed those antibodies off to their children, and the whole community had herd immunity. Yeah. Natural herd immunity.
Right.
Natural. And we're talking everybody. Adults, children, the lady in the grocery store, the teachers, everything. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into this now, but this herd immunity is just crazy making, because they say in elementary schools they want 99 or 100% vaccination because of herd immunity. But none of the teachers are required to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
The grocery store people, when you go to the movies, is everybody vaccinated?
The bus driver probably is not vaccinated.
The church, everywhere you go. So how could this herd immunity ever work with vaccinations?
It's just a mythological concept.
Unless they completely force everybody to do it. But, the natural herd immunity happened beautifully all by itself.
And we'll get to some examples of that here in a few minutes. Now, the CDC continues to tell you that vaccines do not cause autism. Even since back in 2004, I think that's when the biggest revelation showed up. When William Thompson of the CDC came out and said the major report of that year that showed no relationship between autism and MMR.
So he came out and said that. He worked for the CDC, William Thompson, and said there is no relationship between autism and MMR. And then his conscience got to him.
Oh, yeah, he couldn't handle it. And he finally came out in 2017 and said they were forced to lie and alter the report findings that definitely linked MMR to autism. So you're going to still hear people today telling you that autism doesn't come from the MMR. Now, does MMR cause autism everywhere? No. But it does cause it in susceptible children who are, not everybody, but there are children who are susceptible to this, and they should be tested ahead of time before they ever get anything like this. And we're going to give you the example of a doctor, a pediatrician in Portland here before too long, who figured out a way to vaccinate kids and not have any autism.
Yes, and sometimes it doesn't rise to the level of a disease, as we were talking about before.
Yes.
That's why Dr. McBride says you should have a stool test done on every child before they're vaccinated.
Yes, because you got to find out how healthy that gut is.
Yes, and then especially African-American boys.
That was the thing that they came out with at William Thompson. He came out and said, hey, we lied. We fudged.
It's horrible.
And he's still working with the CDC.
I know, I don't get that.
But I'll tell you, if you just Google this.
But at least he told us.
Google CDC and spider, like the arachnid. Google CDC and spider, and you'll see all the additional scientists who are also coming out
But
no word from the media.
Yeah.
There's all these other
blackout.
scientists coming out talking about the incredible levels of fraud that exist inside the CDC. These are CDC scientists coming out and saying this.
Can you believe they didn't tell us
Google
this?
CDC and Spider.
I can't believe
I mean, I read that and I was so mad about threw the computer through the wall. And then the question is, how far up the chain does this go at the CDC? William Thompson.
Yes, that's the problem. William Thompson, he's just trying to feed his family. He's just a cog in the wheel. He's just a bureaucrat. He's just working and he's just trying to make it through. But how far does this go up to the CDC?
Right. Let me give you a good example. Back when Coca-Cola and sugar were identified as causing obesity.
No.
Yes.
They told us that, right?
Coca-Cola got the CDC to look at fat instead of sugar as the cause of obesity. Remember, the CDC is a business, and they have a lot of patented vaccines of their own, and they generate an income. And they dress in uniforms, and they have ranks and officers. It's amazing.
Yeah, I saw they contributed a whole bunch of money to something, and I can't remember, global warming or something the other day. So they do make a lot of money, is my point.
Well, yeah. Now, some of you know someone with autism. It's hardly anywhere you can be today and not know somebody with autism. Mm-hmm. But the biggest charity for autism, the largest autism charity, is probably Autism Speaks. Oh. And they still, to this day, refuse to look at vaccines.
It's unconscionable.
And Congress has held no, even though Bill Thompson comes out from the CDC and said, hey, that stuff we reported over 10 years ago, it was a lie.
They should have pulled him right in.
There should have been immediate Senate hearings, the House oversight, because the House funds the CDC. So the House should be coming in and saying to these guys, get your butts over here. Now, for example, less than 1 month after the Flint, Michigan had the lead-contaminated water discovered, Congress was on top of it with hearings.
1 month.
And the chairman at the time was Jason Chaffetz, from Utah. Why didn't he get into this other thing?
I don't know. That just really frustrates me.
Why do they not touch this?
Because Utah has, 1 in 36?
1 in 36.
And I think it's double for boys.
30 years ago it was 1 in 10,000.
Yeah.
Now it's 1 in 36.
I mean, I don't know why we're not marching in the streets. My theory on it is that we are so obedient in this state. We just line up for those vaccinations, and then sugar, is the only legal drug.
Yep.
Which just destroys our immune system and our children's immune system. And sugar for everything, every party.
Oh, yes.
Everything. I mean,
treats at school, treats at church.
Everywhere. It's sugar, sugar, sugar. Yep. We're the #1 consumer of ice cream, apparently, in Utah.
Per capita, that's right.
Yeah, and here our Jason Chaffetz, I'm thrilled he's
not, he's not there anymore because he stepped out. He retired from Congress.
I never say his name right.
Chaffetz.
See?
Now he works for, I think, Fox News.
Yeah.
As a contributing reporter.
Well, good for him.
Or an editor, but he's no longer at the head of that oversight committee.
But why didn't he tell us, right?
Yeah, why didn't he initiate hearings on that? Well, I got an idea. Now, let me give you an example. There was no autism in India ever before the Gates Foundation took American vaccines to that country.
Wow. Can you say that again?
Never, ever autism in India.
That they ever diagnosed.
That they've ever seen, that they've ever diagnosed or ever witnessed before the Gates Foundation took American vaccines to India. Now there's over 10.4 million Indian children with some form of autism, and the problem is there's no national infrastructure to handle it.
Yeah, I mean,
the parents have nowhere to turn.
Our public schools have specialized classes, specialized teachers for autistic kids, the medical systems, and what are we going to do when these children are adults? The Medicare is just going to bankrupt all of us.
Well, people say, well, come on, it's India, for Pete's sake. They're just having better diagnosis now. The old mental retardation was the old autism, they say. Well, you and I have kicked this idea around. I really like this, that people generate their own suppositions and ideas into the mainstream without any scientific research or anything behind it. They just come out and start saying things. And when people of prominence say this kind of stuff, at this point, their ideas become testable. And they have been tested, and they have been found incorrect, and this cannot account for the increasing numbers. And everywhere we look in public, you're going to, you see a child that adults see, and they say, oh, that kid has autism. That kid must have autism. And a lot of other people who aren't familiar with this will just dismiss it as a poorly disciplined child. But we have had enough vaccine-damaged children in our clinic now. You know autism when you see it.
No, but I want to go back to that because when they just say, "Oh, they didn't diagnose it well back then." I mean, they just didn't understand what autism was. It was there. They really had 10.4 million kids that were autistic, and they just didn't. You know, it's like somebody walks up to you and says, "So when did you stop beating your wife?"
How did you know?
No, really, you have to defend it. You have to first say.
Yeah. Wait a second. Back up.
And so when they say things like this, I mean, you're just sitting there with your mouth dropped open. You're just like, wait.
But it's a testable idea. And I can be tested to find out if I have stopped beating you. And then, but you mean you started?
Well, no. See, let's back up. Now, don't and you have to backtrack, and so these things just get thrown out like it's safe and effective.
Yeah,
because they would tell us
that you can test those things,
children.
But the federal government won't test those things.
Yeah.
So we have to look to China and France and Israel, who are testing these things, and they are waving the flag.
Yeah, and we've had them in our clinic. I've told the stories before, but they bring in their child. I don't know how you wouldn't notice this. 10.4 million children. The child. I've had quite a few come into the clinic, but this one was just over the top, and he just rolled around on the floor. He doesn't even understand what his parents say to him, and he was.
How old is he?
He was 5 at that time, but he was perfectly normal till he got his MMR. He had 3 grand mal seizures. And, this is so ingrained, Jack, that the mother wanted to keep vaccinating after this. The father was, and
they believe the pediatrician who lied to their face. It had no effect.
Yeah. And yes, they said this didn't cause this. He would have had 3 grand mal seizures today.
Anyway.
And the husband, he said it almost caused a divorce because it was bad, because she couldn't admit she had hurt her child.
Oh, heavens, who can? Who could?
Even this was 3-4 years later, she still sat there with this stunned look on her face. And I tell you, he's in diapers. He can't talk. He can't even understand. She said the only thing he understands that we tell him is lay down to change your diaper. He's 5. Well, he's now 8.
Oh, boy.
But because he's the same age as our grandson, and I just, ran and hugged him because he didn't have any vaccinations at all. And you see this and you think they didn't miss this. Parents didn't miss this and go, oh, he's just mentally retarded. In fact, he just suddenly, after 18 months, he became mentally retarded. He was talking, he was diaper trained or almost, and he was, doing all these different things. They're the cutest at 18 months. And then, bam, he had regressive autism to where it got worse and worse and worse.
At one point, they stopped having eye contact. At another point, they stopped smiling. At another point, they stopped recognizing that you're there. At another point, they're totally unaware of anything around them.
There's this new book that we have a lot of this information from. It's called
How to End the Autism Epidemic.
It's wonderful.
By J.B. Handley.
Yes.
Highly recommend. You can get it at Amazon.
Yeah. Well,
highly recommend it. Now, and a lot of this stems from Andrew Wakefield. And they still tell lies about this guy all the time.
Just blatant lies. Yeah,
that they're absolutely false. So I've lost all respect for Anderson Cooper after what he did to Andrew Wakefield back in 2011, 2012.
Yeah, we saw parts of that interview.
Yeah, and the word on the street was that Dr. Wakefield had corrupted his data, but there was no data.
To corrupt.
There was no data in his report. It was just an observation that he and 13 other doctors said, nothing more than this warrants further review. Because they had examined 12 children with autism that had bad guts. They had received the MR vaccine, and they withdrew into autism. They made no causation claims. They just said, hey, there's something here that warrants a little closer look. And they vilified him and crucified him. But since he has been exonerated.
Yes, he has.
But the media won't say a word about that.
Oh, no.
And I'll get to you why the media is
They're not telling
well, I'll
us.
just tell you right now. All you ever get from the media is one side. And that's the side that's paying the media. And the media is in the business, obviously, to make money. And they're not there to present an honest, opposite, objective position. Yeah, I mean, there's no money in everyone going home satisfied that their viewpoint was clearly explained.
Unless you're on that side.
Yes. And so the media sets the stage for the confrontation. Then they take the side that's paying for it. Yeah, and so can a view opposed to the vaccine industry possibly afford to have the media take their position? Of course not.
Yeah.
So I mentioned Paul Thompson there a minute ago. He has a huge pediatric practice in Portland, Oregon. And he insists that there's absolutely no Hep B shots at birth.
For his patients.
For his patients, and absolutely no MMR shots before 3 years old. And he claims to have no autism in his clinical practice, none. No autistic kids. I want to repeat that.
Wow.
He says do not get Hep B shots at birth and absolutely no MMR shots before 3 years old. And I think they give the MMR at 12 months, if I remember correctly.
Well, they do here, but usually it's 18 months in Europe.
Yeah,
That's
even
that's
Europe's
because that's
waiting.
what Wakefield was saying.
Yeah, and then look at Japan. Japan outlawed the MMR. There is no
Outlawed it.
more MMR there
They told
because
them.
they this was in this was a number of years, 2001 or something like this, a number of years ago, because of a huge meningitis outbreak that came from the injections. And even China has told GlaxoSmithKline, a major vaccine producer, to hit the road for all their corrupt practices and getting their vaccines established in China.
They told their people.
Yeah.
China. They told them.
Surely they would have told
Japan
the
told
Chinese.
them.
Yes.
Surely they told us, right?
So what do we do here in America? Well, there's no safety testing on vaccines. I mean, now we have hexavalent shots,
6 in 1.
polyvalent shots. And the schedule, I think, now is up to 72 shots by age 5.
I have no words for that.
Yeah.
72 shots into healthy
72
people.
shots.
You know, I don't post much on Facebook because it's a nightmare, but I did post a video of parents that had triplets, perfectly normal triplets. They were each 5 pounds at birth, which is wonderful.
Yes.
They weren't even in the hospital. They just took them home. They were smiling and laughing and holding hands and all this. They were walking along the furniture.
Yes.
At 9 months old, she took them all in, got all 3 of their shots at 10 a.m. She said by noon, her daughter, who got the first shot, was gone.
Just with 2 hours later, was gone.
Next was 2 p.m. and the next one was 3 p.m. They're now 10 years old and they're in diapers. One of them, they can't speak. The girl can't speak at all. The other boy can say 2 or 3 words. And then the third boy, they're starting to get him caught up actually with his class. I guess he can speak, but he's severely OCD.
Yes.
And how is that going to function in society? And it's a video of these parents talking about their children holding pictures, and people still refuted it.
Oh, yeah.
On my Facebook. They were like, this is fake.
Yeah.
I can't find any pictures of them at 10 years old. It's fake news.
Well, a lot of you listening to this.
I just, I can't handle how we
both break down when we get into this. We just break down.
We've cried for the last 3 days reading stories, but how it's such a religion. And I don't mean to negate or degrade religion at all, but you believe without any science behind it, without any proof behind it. And I love and I don't like the way, but people say all the time, I believe in vaccinations. And I just want to go, what? What does that even mean? You believe. Or people say, I don't believe in vaccines. What does that mean, you don't believe or you do believe? No, you need to get informed. That's what we're saying in this podcast. You need to get informed, not one side, but both sides. Now, usually, unfortunately, this doesn't happen until you have
a damaged child.
A damaged child. And this is like J.B. Handley. His son had regressive autism to the point where he completely stopped speaking and doing anything. And he says it was so overwhelming. I mean, I'm getting chills right now. If you read the story, he said, I just planned on my 2 sons playing together forever and growing up and having this normal life. And this child stopped speaking. He stopped doing anything.
Yeah.
And he said it was just like a death. And so he says, we didn't make this up in our head. I mean, this really happened. So he basically quit his work, although he was well off. But he's been last 10 years maybe?
Oh, anybody in the pro-informed consent movement knows the name of J.B. Handley.
J.B. Handley, he's incredible.
A real champion.
You can listen to a wonderful podcast with him and Andrew Wakefield.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. That's the one we cried in. That was.
So some of you listening to this right now have children that you are debating on whether to vaccinate or not. You have grandchildren that your children are making that decision. I just want to say this. If your pediatrician has not studied this, and just don't take their word, oh, yes, I've studied all of it. If they haven't studied this, if he or she has not researched the latest papers, if they continue the diatribe of vaccines are safe and effective, it's time to find another pediatrician.
Yep.
Because there's more and more pediatricians showing up who will let you do what you want to do. If you do not want to vaccinate, they will not hassle you. There's other pediatricians who will throw you out of their clinic.
Yeah,
if you don't
those
vaccinate.
triplets, they threw them out. They sent them a letter and said, if you're not going to continue to vaccinate these children that were gone,
yes,
they just disappeared in front of them, then you can no longer be part of our practice because they don't get paid unless they have at least 95 or 75%.
I think it's 75%.
Maybe it's 100%.
They get no, it's about 75%. They get bonuses, maybe 80%. They get under the table bonuses from vaccine companies for doing that. I mean, that's a fact.
Let's talk a little bit about this herd immunity.
Yeah, a little bit more.
There are roughly 150 million adults in the U.S. walking around with no vaccine-provided protection from any diseases that we're supposed to have herd immunity threshold for. And here's just a few.
150 million adults walking around? I mean, it's like walking naked.
Can you believe it?
They're not vaccine protected?
No. Hepatitis A, is at 9%.
No, think about that. Hepatitis A needs 9% vaccine to have herd immunity.
No, that's not what that means. That means there's only 9%. They're wanting 100%.
Oh, I read that wrong. Excuse me. Okay, all right.
No. You need 100% for herd immunity. Are you kidding me? So
you need, I think it's 85 in the public schools. I don't know what it is.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
So there's only 9% of the American public
that's been
vaccinated for hepatitis A?
Hepatitis B, there's 24%. Pneumococcal, 20.4%. And influenza, which is the flu shot, so there's more of that, 43.2.
And every year the CDC comes out and says, you know what, it's not really working, but we suggest you get it anyway. Yeah. No wonder it's only 43.
Well, there's science that is clear today. It's not, I believe, this is science that is clear that all vaccines wane in 4 to 10 years. Yeah. So who gets their boosters? Everybody raise their hand. Who gets their boosters?
And these people that you're describing here, Mary, work in our communities. They work in our schools. They work in our restaurants, our stores, our businesses, our theaters, our playgrounds. And with so many of these people unvaccinated, where, may I ask you, are the crippling epidemics as a result of all these people who are not vaccinated?
And
I don't even want to go outside anymore. It's too scary.
We never had a vaccine for scarlet fever. And guess what? It's gone. We never did make one.
Or rheumatic fever.
Because it's gone.
Or typhus.
That's the beautiful herd immunity that we're talking about.
Politicians will stand up in front of their colleagues. I've seen it on C-SPAN. Just pound the table and advocate passing mandatory vaccine laws like that idiot Senator Pan, California legislature, in order to preserve the herd immunity. And pediatricians get on TV and explain how critical it is that we all maintain herd immunity.
Now, they're calling it community protection now.
Oh.
They're not using herd immunity. They switched the terms, so confuse us a little bit more. Well,
it's one of those sophisticated public relations strategies just designed to compel parents into vaccinating their children through some kind of emotional manipulation. Do you know what will happen to your child if they're not a part of the herd immunity?
Yeah. This oft-told lie that vaccines saved humanity is just that.
Yes, it is.
A lie.
It is a lie.
Okay?
and the laws for the 2014 Clean Water Acts that came out in our 1914.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You know, for clean water and sanitation and water treatment and plumbing and waste disposal and refrigeration, and although they didn't have refrigeration then, but it finally came, and food handling laws. That's what saved us from infectious diseases.
Infectious diseases.
Yeah.
Gave us chronic diseases, but
Well,
hey, we got rid of infectious diseases. Nobody wants a chickenpox, I tell you.
And for other infectious diseases like polio, typhoid, cholera, I mean, these were all on dramatic decline before the vaccines ever were created. So if these diseases went away on their own with improved sanitation, and, you know, and then just considering the life cycle of a virus, I mean, why are we told millions would otherwise be dead from diphtheria and smallpox and measles and mumps and chickenpox and polio and whooping cough? Where are these millions who are dead from these things?
Yeah.
Where are they?
Where are they?
So as you say...
My dad had diphtheria. He lived.
Well, he came from the back hills of... There's a great story. We don't have time to tell it now, but a great story on some backwoods people that cured diphtheria with their little daughter. And the doctor was aware of the procedure, but he didn't suggest it to him. They found out from somebody else, and then they confronted him about it. Well, it's not a professional, it's not a professional thing. I didn't tell you about this, but
it's not a drug.
We'll tell that some other time.
We've told it a million times. But.
So again, it's like Mary's always saying, we've traded infectious diseases for chronic diseases.
Here's something we thought it was a bit amusing.
Yes.
This is paraphrased from Forrest Gump. Go ahead.
Vaccines are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Acute hemorrhagic edema at infancy, allergies, diabetes, eczema, petty or grand mal seizures, and then here comes the spaghetti list. ADEM, AFP, ASIA, CFS, GBS, JPA, JRA, LGS, LKS, MS, PANDAS, PANS, PINTADS, POF, POTS, RA, SJS, SLE, SPD, TPI, Hennig-Schwann-Line-Purpura, I had to say that one, fibromyalgia, Rett syndrome, encephalitis, Hughes syndrome, neurological damage, coma, or death.
That is paraphrased. I should not laugh, but you have to laugh because it's so sad. It's paraphrased from Forrest Gump.
I think that's really funny.
It's really cute, but I don't even know what half of those are. That is just scary.
So when my patients ask me, do vaccines work? I say, yeah, depending on how you define work.
Well,
because
yes,
for a short time,
yeah,
they force the body to create antibodies in a backwards immune altering way. You want to explain that?
Well, no, it's just the humoral and cell-mediated immunity, which we naturally get, but we with the adjuvants of aluminum and the mercury that they used to have in there, but they still do in the flu shots. Yeah. Don't forget that. They are such a massive. It's the most toxic substance known to man. Mercury.
Neurologically, non-radioactive. Most toxic, non-radioactive.
That when you inject that into your body, it so excites the immune system. It just goes on red alert because when you're putting a dead virus in there or an attenuated, almost dead virus in you, your immune system might not even notice it. And it might just think it's, a little protein and get rid of it. But when they put in those adjuvants, which they have to put in, it so excites the immune system that it forces the body to make autoantibodies.
We have several other podcasts on this very subject. And the basics of what you're saying is in podcast 109 and 110.
Go listen to those.
But then there's another one we did, I think about a year ago, The Only Vaccine Guide a New Parent Needs.
Yeah, I think we did that.
That kind of brought things up to date because it talks about the research that's going on showing how deadly these things are outside of our country. You won't see research in our country.
No.
You have to go to France. You have to go to Israel. You have to go to China.
So remember, we're recapping here. Remember, vaccines wane after 4 to 10 years. But even if they did work and they gave you lifelong immunity, what is the cost? Okay? You constantly have to ask yourself, at what cost? Autoimmunity, cancer, death, let alone lifelong, life-altering chronic problems such as, neurological damage.
Ooh, that's a bad one.
Yeah, including brain damage.
Ooh, that's a bad one.
Severe digestive issues.
Ooh, that's a bad one.
Autism.
Ooh, that's really bad.
Incapacitating allergies. eczema, poor sleep, life-threatening asthma, respiratory problems, ADHD, exhaustion, OCD, and maybe even fertility, let alone all the spaghetti stuff that you talked about.
Just those things.
So just those things. So you got to think about that. Even if the vaccine works, at what cost? Now, I always say this because remember, we're not pro-vaccine, we're pro-informed.
Yeah.
And
the doctor should tell the parents, these are the benefits, these are the risks, make up your own mind.
So I always say, if suddenly the Black Plague came through Utah, I might consider getting a Black Plague vaccine, risking neurological damage, risking all of these things. Of course, I would take, chlorophyll and all kinds of different things.
Tons of calcium.
All kinds of different things with it. But I might, because vaccines do work. You can do a titer
Only
test.
in the sense that they create antibodies.
They do. That's what I mean.
Now,
You're right.
But there's no long-term studies, no long-term testing of vaccines, none. So you don't know what happens down the road.
So you have to say, at what cost?
Yes.
So we didn't vaccinate our son, all our other kids, poor things. My oldest daughter always says, I wonder what I had been like if I hadn't had any vaccinations.
Yes.
But it's your choice. We just want you to be informed and recognize the side effects that can happen because they won't tell you about it. As the title of this podcast is, they would have told us, right? No, they don't tell you this. They're not required to give you a complete vaccination list of the side effects.
Yeah.
And
there's no such thing as herd immunity concerning vaccinations.
No.
Only by a community getting the disease, like it used to happen 100 years ago, creating antibodies to it, transferring those antibodies to their children, usually by nursing, building their immune systems rather than destroying it with vaccinations. That's how you have herd immunity.
Yeah.
That's how we have herd immunity now with polio. The only polio that's showing up now, according to the CDC, comes from vaccines.
Yep.
That's why we don't have scarlet fever anymore, because of the real natural herd immunity. Now, we were talking about J.B. Hanley's book, How to Stop the Vaccine Epidemic. These are his words. They kind of finishes his book with, quote, managing my own anger was a challenge. The more I learned, the stronger I felt that greed, ignorance, and spineless bureaucrats had contributed to a situation that injured my son and put a normal life for him out of reach. When you learn what I learned, and when you step back and really think about the scale of destruction, and when you see that people in positions of authority know and yet refuse to act, it's even harder to bear. Every time we'd see Jameson's health improve, it reminded us of how avoidable this was, and that made us matter still. And this brings us to the next point. Do they get better? Can an autistic child get better?
Yes, and
all the time.
And they don't tell you
and
that.
They won't tell you that.
They don't tell you
Even
that.
Autism Speaks won't tell you.
And he says that's what makes him matter.
Yeah.
Is that every time he sees his son get better and better, and he's much, much better now. He's 17 now.
Yeah.
He says that I would just because obviously it wasn't genetics. If he got better, because they will say,
how can genetic damage that caused the problem allow that problem to get better?
Yeah. They say autism is genetic. They told those triplets that it was genetic, and one was a girl and two were boys. So she was like, no, this wouldn't have happened in the same afternoon, on the same day.
Within a few hours of each other.
If it was genetics.
Yeah.
But nobody told them they could get their child better.
But if bad genes, altered genes, were the real problem, how in the world did they start getting better with bad genes that caused the problem?
And changing their diet. Oh, how did they get better?
Discussing vaccinations, we're going to kind of bring this to an end here, but discussing vaccinations and autism isn't an explosive topic at all. It's thermonuclear.
Yes, it is.
And both sides of the argument feel with great passion, that the health and the welfare of our children are at stake here. And
Yes,
of course
I just had an argument. I hate to call it argument. Kind of a discussion with somebody great passion. I mean, literally, he called me a child murderer. He did. A child murderer. So there's great passion. He truly believes it. I don't blame him. He really thinks that vaccines have saved society. So,
well, much of that passion that you're talking about is just simply the product of several lies that are told over and over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And these lies, they can be tested, but the government will not pay for the testing. They form a foundation for these self-interested parties that J.B. Hanley's talking about to deny, to obscure, to misdirect the truth of what's happening to millions of these children.
10 million Indian children.
Yeah, and they end up pitting well-meaning parents against well-meaning parents.
Yes, we both feel very, very strong about this. I understand. So that's why we always come back to, you just need to get informed.
Yes.
Remove the lies, and you're left with a deeply disturbing explanation for why so many children have autism, seemingly out of the blue.
There weren't any kids like this when I was in elementary school.
Out of the blue. It just happened.
Now, I was one of the kids that got paddled on a regular basis, and I'm serious. I got paddled.
Believe you.
And it wasn't because of autism. It was because I had a very hard time with authority.
No.
Oh, my goodness. Don't you climb over that fence. Are they looking?
There he goes.
Yeah, don't you hit that boy. Are they looking?
So let me tell you, there's an easy website to remember for anybody that's considering getting the MMR vaccine. And, you know, I wish I could show you this, but it's Physicians for Informed Consent.
One word.
.org/measles. Now, let me say that again. Physicians for Informed Consent.org/measles. Now that first part is all one word. There's no spaces in there. Physicians for Informed Consent.org/measles. And it's got a beautiful...
These are medical doctors, and more of them are coming out and starting to talk, but they have to band together or they will be crucified in their own profession.
So send people there. So we have got to rip a hole in this universe. We are just trying to expose one forbidden tidbit at a time. And let me just tell you real quick, that forbidden doctor isn't some reclusive hideaway on the south side of town, hidden in some backdoor garage room. Isn't some poor fool of a med school dropout secretly performing hidden surgeries. The forbidden doctor is that beautiful, marvelous, almost miraculous healing force inside of you.
Yes.
It's that innate intelligence, that life force directed influence that triggered your DNA to build your body after conception. It is that power that sustains your life, repairs your wounds, lesions, and the distressed and disrupted actions deep inside several systems of your body. It is that essential part of you that keeps you alive and heals your every hurt. It is that part of you that the powers that be have decreed forbidden to ever learn about or even consider, and never, ever rely upon. For it is forbidden that you ever know this life force exists at all.
Because all healing is self-healing. No one heals anyone else. No one cures anyone. The body cures itself of whatever it's suffering from. Now, someone can, in an emergency, remove the restrictions that's preventing healing through surgery or whatever intervention might be necessary. Or someone can add something that's missing that might be retarding healing. But at the end of the day, the body healed itself. And anyone who takes credit for healing someone is lying to you. Someone can save your life, but healing's another matter. The body heals itself.
This is the forbidden doctor inside of you that you are prohibited from knowing anything else.
So go to forbiddendoctor.com and take our free symptom survey. Read about our 2 revolutionary products. More to come, but 2 so far, ageless thyroid and long life energy enzymes. There are no other products like this in the world.
Or go to agelessthyroid.com and read about a product that can help contribute to melting your breast lumps and supporting your hormonal system. And now we will read the disclaimer.
You read it.
The statements made in this podcast about specific products have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided or any information contained on or in any product label or packaging or this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professionals.
So thank you for listening to this forbidden information in our Forbidden podcast.
Join us next time for another in-depth discussion of forbidden knowledge. We'll see you then.
We'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to the Forbidden Doctor podcast. If you are curious about long-life energy enzymes or ageless thyroid, you can purchase them without a membership from our website at forbiddendoctor.com or get our enzyme formula from amazon.com by searching the full term, Long Life Energy Enzymes. Don't forget to take our obligation-free symptom survey to get a free personalized supplement protocol recommended for you by Dr. Jack, Mary, or one of our qualified nutritionists. Take the survey, get a call from our nutritionist to create a protocol and a patient login, then use that login to see your own personal protocol along with any favorites you've saved from our symptom library. Remember, our website and our clinic are here for you always.